Happy Sunday, webheads! Welcome to another episode of After the Pull, the video series where I take all the comic books I read for this comic book week and I kind of give you my thoughts on them. However, this week is going to be a little bit different because I read 22 books this week. I'm not going to go in depth with every single one of these books. I am going to basically say either I liked it, didn't like it, and then when I get to my top 5 comics of the week, I will go a little bit more into depth about that. Okay, so before we start though in this video, I gotta give a little PSA. I got word recently from one of the webheads out there. There's someone pretending to be me out there, and it's unfortunate. And what they're telling people is that they're on a short list to win a particular prize. I know this has happened to other comic book YouTubers or other YouTubers out there. If I do a contest, it's going to be a contest through a video. I'm not going to message you or answer you back in some weird way through the comments that way, okay? When I have a contest or a giveaway, I will let you know in a video. So if you received any messages that you have won something, please disregard it. It is not me. All right, so with the little PSA out of the way, let's get started with this huge comic book week. And the first book that we're going to be talking about pretty quickly is Strange Academy Finals. This is issue 4, just outside my top 5 this particular comic week. An absolutely awesome series. We're coming to the end. Emily is truly on the dark side here. She actually has teamed up with Dormammu. It's a great story of just good versus evil at this point. Highly recommend Strange Academy. A phenomenal book this week. All right, another book that was actually really good and I've been following from the very start, but outside the top 5 is Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. This is issue 4. This is a story about a couple who have met each other in an apocalyptic situation, and let me tell you, they have gotten separated, and now our main character is going after her potential, I guess, loved one. This is a phenomenal read. I never thought I would like a book like this about two people falling in love in an apocalyptic world, but it hits all the marks, man. Really enjoyed it. All right. New number 1 this week, it went to Blue Book. This is issue 1, James Tynion's book. This book for me was not very interesting. Some people disagreed with me, as this has true stories of like UFO sightings and abductions and things like that. My only gripe about this book is that I got really into the main story and then it took you out with something else, and they're like, well, to be continued next week. It was like, just tell me the whole freaking story. I don't need like another anthology book. That's what this book felt like to me, and because of that reason, I don't know if I'm gonna get the next issue. We'll see. Another new number 1 that came out this week was Immoral X-Men, issue 1. This book was pretty interesting. It's really an Emma Frost story on how much of a badass she actually is, and Mr. Sinister's plans on continuing to, I guess, conquer the world in his vision. Paco Mandina does the artwork in this book, and this was an absolutely gorgeous and colorful book to look at. When it comes to the Sinister event overall, I feel like it's a solid event. Not the best thing I ever read, but I definitely recommend it if you're looking for some decent X-Men stuff. DC Universe Lazarus Planet Omega. This is issue 1. This was an okay read this particular comic book week, but it just didn't really, I feel, accomplish anything. I feel like if you have to have a true event, you have to sit there and have the same writer write, you know, the Alpha, the Omega, and all this stuff in between. It's a pretty art book. It's very colorful, bright, vibrant, all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was just a bunch of people fighting. Great action, but it just was an event that really didn't need to exist. We had Deceased, War of the Undead Gods, issue 6 of 8. This title has lost a little bit of its luster for me. I feel like the first 2 volumes were phenomenal. Now I just feel like it's getting old, and I feel like they're telling a story here just to tell a story, just because it's Deceased, and they feel like people are going to buy it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's great artwork in here. There's always jaw-dropping moments, but it does pretty much feel like the same thing each issue. Nothing is really different. Nothing really progresses the story, except I feel like Tom Taylor's really relying heavily on the shock value of this series. Next, we have Amazing Spider-Man issue 20. What can I say? This is part 2 of the Black Cat story. And even though I like these two together, what he said about Mary Jane in this particular comic book was a joke. Like, he treats Mary Jane as a sister. Like, that's how he feels about her. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't care. You guys have been together for like the longest time, and seriously, that's where we're going with this. Like, that was just absolutely crappy. The artwork was okay. I felt it was better than the last issue. Thank God this story is over, because it looks like we're going to start getting to the real meat and potatoes of Zub's run here. And Zeb Wells' run here. And hopefully it starts to deliver. If not, this could go down as one of the worst Spider-Man runs ever. Next, we had Star Wars High Republic. This is issue 1. This was an okay read. This is an all-ages Star Wars tale. If you're looking for something to read with your son or daughter, pick this book up, especially if they love Star Wars. Something is Killing the Children, issue 29. This is a pretty solid book. It's always exciting. It's horrific. We have Erica Slaughter, who is actually in the run in this comic book, and she is on the run against Cutter, who is out to kill her, and she'll do anything to kill her. And we get just a little bit of some insight of what's going on with the other members of the house, if they're making the right decision to have Erica Slaughter killed. Really exciting book. This is probably Tynion's best story that he has actually ever written, and I don't know if anything can top Something is Killing the Children. Nightwing, issue 101. This book was alright, nothing special. Deadpool, issue 4. After reading this issue, I don't know if I'm going to be continuing this. Somehow, Cletus Cassidy is born again and he's Carnage. Very weird stuff. She-Hulk, issue 10. For me, this was almost just a waste of time. I feel like that I'm thinking about dropping this actual book. How long are we going to tell this love story between Jennifer Walters and the Jack of Hearts? There's nothing really going on in this comic book except that it's a love story. I don't know if I want to read that. Liquid Kill, issue 1 from Whatnot Publishing. Pretty cool concept. Artwork is very dark. Lacks a little bit of story. Was looking for something more. Don't know if I'll continue this one. Plus, issue 4. All I can say, it's just weird, man. It's just weird. Thor, issue 31. What has happened to this series? I guess ever since Donny Cates left this book, this is just, it's all over the place for me. I don't even know what's going on anymore. There's gigantic ravens. You got Mjolnir talking, which is his dad, which gets in the way of the storytelling. I'm just not a fan right now. Barbaric. This is Hell to Pay. This is issue 2. This is almost like the Thor book I want to read. This book is hilarious. There's so much vulgar and just a lot of storytelling in here when it comes to our main character Owen and his supporting cast. This is always a very entertaining read. Saga chapter 62. Pretty good. I mean, we're flirting with the situation of a particular character coming back. But there's nothing here that's really grabbed me going, man, Saga's so good right now. Okay, here we go. Top 5 now. We have Local Man, issue 1. This was a phenomenal read. Gives me the 90 vibes. It's got like an homage to almost like Amazing Spider-Man and Youngblood, and just when Image got kicked off in the 90s, you know, you got this 90s like hologram or shiny cover, whatever it is, like a freaking Pokemon card. Such a great book about a hero who has kind of lost his way, wound up going back home to his family. He's trying to resolve things with his family. Artwork is absolutely phenomenal in this comic book. It just reminds you of old 90s style of comics when you open one side of this comic, and then on the other side you get to see our hero just again going back to his parents And you see two sides of the story here. And that's what's so cool about this comic, how you can start from one side or another, and it kind of, affects the way you look at the character or read the character. So you can see him as kind of this guy who's lost everything right from the start, or from the start you can see him as a superhero. Either way you read it, it's absolutely fine. It was a very interesting story, and I cannot wait for issue 2. Number 4 this week, we have Superman issue 1. I can tell you that Superman is back, and I know a lot of people really enjoyed this issue. This was so much fun to read. There's a couple questions I had at the end of this, but when I did my initial number ones review on my Worthy Ones video, people answered that question, so I appreciate that. This book had gorgeous artwork. It had a lot of Superman feels in it, right? Back from like when you maybe watched like the original Superman movie or Superman 2, like it had a lot of those elements. It had Superman being his character, right? And I think that's what everyone loved about here. It introduced everybody in a great way, like Jimmy Olsen, like Clark Kent, editor-in-chief Lois Lane, which was really good, Lex Luthor, who's trying to put this something in Superman's ear, which was quite interesting, of him taking over his corporation and call it like Superman Corp or whatnot. I thought that was really good. There were so many great elements. You wind up seeing the villain of Parasite at the end of it, which that's nothing new, but this book was really awesome, and I cannot wait for the next issue of this. And it's great to be excited about Superman. I couldn't tell you the last time I was excited about that particular character, but I truly am, and I'm looking forward to issue 2. Coming in at number 3, we have The Flash, issue 793, 1 Minute War. This is part 4. Holy cow, guys. Let me tell you, this book was excellent, as we get to see all of our Flash characters have some great family moments and come together to actually put the plan in place to stop this fraction. Now, I am not familiar with a lot of the Flash lore or all of the characters that are in the series, but I can tell you the one great thing here is that they all are so different in many ways, and that's what I liked about them. The writer here really showcases all their personalities, so they don't just feel like a carbon copy of each other, kind of like maybe like Spider-Verse. And there were some great emotional moments again between Barry and Wally in this comic book about what's going on with Iris, and again they come up with a plan to try to stop the fraction. It doesn't necessarily go as planned by the time you get to the end of it, and then it's leading into issue 94, where I think one of the daughters, is it Irie, I think her name is, who was left behind to guard all of the superheroes while stuck in the Speed Force. And it looks like she's probably going to be like the next like superhero or whatnot. But whatever the case happened, though, this book is absolutely phenomenal. Love the Flash right now. And I can just, again, I say it all the time, I wish I started this series when Jeremy Adams started the run. I probably would have appreciated it a lot more and known a lot more of what's going on and what leading into this whole thing. But at least I'm enjoying what he's doing right now, and I'm looking forward to when he starts writing Green Lanterns. I think that's going to be awesome. Coming in at number 2, this one goes to World's Finest, issue 12. This is the best book that DC has got going for it. Mark Waid is absolutely phenomenal at writing these characters. He gets their voices, he gives them emotion, he makes you feel like they're real people even though they're all superheroes, and that's what I love about it. And what this comic book is, it's relatable, right? Yes, you have Kara, who is this super being, this godlike character, and then you have Dick Grayson, who is Batman's sidekick, who has done everything. But you as the reader have pretty much all gone on a shit-ass date. You get to experience the highs and the lows of the date that Kara and Dick go on, and it was absolutely hysterical. I loved I loved reading each and every panel. It was hysterical from beginning to end, and I could not recommend anything more out of a comic book this week except one other book, right? But this was the best DC book by far, A+ in my opinion. Definitely go out, read this series. I really don't know who isn't at this point. All right, guys, so what came in number 1 this week? The book that beat World's Finest wound up going to Specs issue 4. It's not too often that you get a comic book that actually moves me. And this one did. This one actually had me tear up a little bit. I'm not going to spoil it because it will take away that heart that this book actually delivers. But it's about these two boys that have come across these x-ray glasses, and they got to make a decision on what they have to do with these glasses. And they found out that these glasses are actually impenetrable. They can't be broken. They're bound by magic, right? They've been granting wishes for these two boys for the longest time. And they want to get rid of them. And they've caused nothing but trouble for these people, right? And this book is so emotionally driven, though. Like, the glasses aspect of this comic book is almost like a side story of what these two boys' relationship is in this comic book. And man, let me tell you, it just moved me. And for one boy, I felt so sorry for what he was going through in his world, you know, because in the 80s, things were a lot different than they are today. We're a lot more open. But with him being gay and him coming out to his best friend, he put himself out there, you know? And it was just so moving. But it's not even that moved me. It's the end of the comic of what happened, because this boy was blamed for murder of a school bully, and he went through trial, and he had to eventually move away out of his town, and then things happened to him when he came back. And when you read those final 2 pages, you're just like, oh my God, these two boys' relationship was inseparable. It doesn't matter if they were gay, straight, black, whatever it was. Number 1 by far. When a book moves me, that's when you know it does its job. I could do nothing but recommend this series. It is so good. And when it does come out in trade, and hopefully it will soon, and it's done by Boom, hopefully you'll read Specs. And if you did read this comic book, I want to know in the comments below what you thought of it. Did it deliver for you? Would you want to see a volume 2? Because it left you cliffhanging at the end of the comic in the future with someone else getting these glasses. So yeah, just let me know in the comments below what you thought of Specs issue 4. So there you guys have it. There are my thoughts on these comic books. I know for a lot of them, I just gave you a quick thoughts, but otherwise this video would have been forever. So I want to know in the comments below, what were your favorite books this week? Also, that Specs issue. And of course, guys, I'm going to leave you one of my newest videos that I most recently did. This is my Worthy Ones. I went into depth about all the new number 1s that I read this comic book week. And of course, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read those comic books. I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.